So it's a Q&A, we call it. My name is Frédéric Boyer. I'm Director of Programming of RIFF since 4 years. And it's such a pleasure not only to show you Call Me By Your Name, but to have Luca Guadagnino after the film, because it is the most important in festival to be connected with talents, filmmakers, actors, and also people who are making the film. So welcome, Luca. It's going to be a Q&A, an excellent talk. So we're going to talk a little bit about the film, but I think it's going to be just a conversation with me, Luca, and you. So of course, be interactive and ask questions anytime you want. To start, of course, someone told me, okay, do you want to do the Q&A with Luca? Yes, of course, I want to do it. So they sent me a link of Call Me By Your Name, but I saw the film only when it was released, and I didn't see the film again. And I think it's much better to talk about my impression of a film. So I think I prefer to stay about the film and what I was thinking about the film at this time, more than going scene by scene, because of course I can do it and I will enjoy it, but I wanted to keep the souvenir of the film. And when I'm thinking about you and your work, and I have the word I will mention, it's freedom. It's the idea of freedom. So we're going to talk about actors, and also I will not say independence, but I think you are an artisan, like in France, an artisan, someone who is working with his hands. So always trying to find new ideas. He's researching a lot, and then I want to start with few team, and one of the team is the actors, and the impression of naturel we have when we see all your film, from this one, Bon and All, A Bigger Splash, and Amore, and so many films. Each time what we feel about the Luca Guadagnino film, it's so natural. They are not actors. And I was reading, you are not choosing actors, you are choosing people, human beings. So we can talk about Timothée Chalamet, but not only him, how you make your choice and how you connect two actors or three actors together. And I'm thinking about Ralph Fiennes and Tilda Swinton as a couple.
Hello. I think that I kind of learned quite soon that the performance was something that I was very drawn by. Whether it was the performance of someone that I saw at my high school and I was completely fascinated by, so I asked him to be in a short film I was directing, or directing an established actor. But I also kind of learned that performance doesn't come necessarily with the technique of acting, which for me is something that leads to theatricality. And so I feel it's something that I'm not interested into, but more about finding that space in which there is a collision between the art of performance and the actual person who's performing it. Isabelle Huppert said it today. Someone mentioned that she said that she does like acting because she does not act, but she wants to be transparent for the screen and for the camera. So the goal is always that. And to find a way in which, as Bertolucci used to say, the movie is a movie about the characters, but mostly is a documentary about the actors playing the characters. So to find in the characters the truth of the actors, that's something that I'm quite interested into. And so for me it's natural to go toward the actors that when I meet them, when I see their work, when we spend a little bit of time together, I see that there is that openness. Because of course sometimes an actor wants to shield themselves instead of open up.
Thank you, and can you tell us a little bit about the interaction between Armie Hammer, how you make two actors connected? Because we always feel, I feel when I see your films, there is a kind of happiness on the set. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I right?
You must be wrong.
I'll try.
No, truthfully, like I want film set or my film set to be joyful, but actually I don't succeed. I'm always very nervous, but I think that when I work with performers, they know that I love them. So I think maybe they have a good experience. I don't. The point is that I want people to feel that they can do anything they want. You said freedom before. So I want people to feel free to be guardless and to go without any blockage toward the performance. But I also think that, and this sounds corny, and I apologize, but I feel like every character in every movies that I make is somehow a facet of myself. I see it now that I'm 52. I start to see that. So in a way, as far as it is about the chemistry between the actors, I think it's about the chemistry between me and the actors. And so they all collide to make this puzzle. I also want to have an atmosphere where people on set feel more than on set, beyond the set. Like when we do a movie, we prepare it with a lot of care before we shoot. I gather people together, I make them be. Like I think a good party player is someone who makes a party to make people to be happy and then leaves the party. That's what I do.
I have a question because I didn't ask you this question out of stage, but I really want to tell me, because I think there is a few filmmakers who are really, they have also the capacity to create scores. It can be Jim Jarmusch, Quentin Tarantino, a few of them, and you are one of these filmmakers. So we can mention Trent Reznor collaboration for Bone and All. A Bigger Splash, of course, it's the Stones if you didn't see the film, but not only. And on this film, I don't know why, I didn't want to see the film, but I was on Spotify and I rediscovered Bamboleo, Paris Latino, so it's really extraordinary. Psychedelic Furs, John Adams, Ruchi Sakamoto, and I'm a fan of all these musicians. So I think, can you tell us a little bit your relationship with music and why you choose this theme? Because I think it's very precise.
Thank you for the compliment. I feel humbled. Up until a certain moment of my process, I did not want to work with composers. I was forced to use a composer when I did Melissa P. That movie was built as a sort of like manga tale, where there were these. I thought in my mind it was about cosplaying. So Melissa was cosplaying throughout the entire movie, to the degree that we had shot the movie the storyline was between the beginning of the year, scholastic year, and the end, so September, June in Italy. And every month, we were telling the story of every month, and every month, every costume, every character was dressed with the same color, for instance. Very cartoonish, very manga. And we put a collection of songs in the film that was kind of a prism of the generation that we were telling the story of the time. It was like 40 songs, and then the studio decided not to go there. There was the last battle I lost, that I decided that I was going to take control over my work and never lose this kind of battles. I succeed so far, knock on wood. And so I was obliged to use a composer, which I wasn't very happy with the score, but not because, I respect the composer, but that wasn't my intention. But then, I always wanted to work with source music, because the canon of music that you can find is so wide and vast that I think why to narrow yourself to the perspective of one composer? That was my motto. And I worked like this for a long time. In fact, I Am Love and Bigger Splash and Call Me By Your Name are three movies where you have no original score, but maybe in the case of Call Me By Your Name, 2 original songs. When I conceived Suspiria, though, I started to think in terms of scoring because of the importance of the score in Dario Argento movie. The Goblin. I like to say, switch off the music and see Suspiria without the music by Dario Argento and see what's the effect. So So I said to myself, okay, how can we work on the score with the same awareness that Dario put in it, but maybe, and hopefully not damaging the movie to the degree that if it's silent doesn't mean anything. So I invited this great artist that is Tom York to compose the soundtrack. That was his first soundtrack, as a sort of almost musical. There are many songs in it. And then when I did Bones and All, I felt that I'd been exploring so much the possibilities of repertoire, and I had explored the possibility of working with a rock musician that was doing for the first time a score, that I was compelled to collaborate with an actual proper composer. And I approached Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which one can say they are also rock musicians because they are Nine Inch Nails, but they've been doing so much of scoring. And that was very beautiful because we worked before shooting the movie. We worked very much in advance. I gave them some elements that were words, like I told them elegiac, I told them complete transparency of love when you're young, and all these elements. And I also discussed with them how I felt an acoustic guitar for me was very in connection with the landscape of America. And a few weeks later in the preparation process, they sent me some beautiful themes. We chose two, and they developed the score on those two themes that then became the score. But we shot the movie with those themes in our ears. And they did a new score of Challengers.
Oh, they did it again.
Oh yes, and they're doing now Queer. So we're doing 3 movies together now. They're wonderful scores, and Trent and Atticus. And for Challengers, I told them, let's make the movie be like a rave party. So it's like house music, very, very pumped.
We can't wait to see Challenger, which was normally opening the Venice Film Festival, but because of the strike, so it's a film with Josh O'Connor and Zendaya, so we're waiting the film for next year's. And Queer, this is another film with Daniel Craig, that's right? Yeah. No. Do you have any question for Luca? I think there is many, so maybe you, and can you not stand up but clear your voice? Yeah. We have to choose one, so one and another one. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you have a personal connection to Paris Latino, the song?
Completely, yes. I was 13, I remember. And I think that was a hit when I was 13 in 1984. And the song was in a movie by Carlo Vanzina, Vacanze di Natale, which was a mega hit in Italy, which is like a very commercial comedy, but somehow quite smart. But also was a song that was playing a lot during these parties, like La Boom, those parties when the adolescent goes. There are sad potato chips and drinks, and people make out in the corners of the room. I wasn't making out at all, so I was sitting in the back of the room looking at people making out. That is when I understood that I was a great director or a voyeur.
Yes, please.
What's your biggest fear of making a film?
Well, 2 things. Consciously, I would say to actually make it. It's very difficult to make a movie, and it's very difficult to understand, to let yourself be able to be driven by your intuitions. So to lose the possibility of reality on set, to obliterate in a way the quality of the craft. And then I have a recurrent dream that I think many colleagues have, which is that I go to on set and nothing is ready.
Yeah, how do you deal with notes from producers and studios, and at what point are you able to show your film to someone and like be able to take it to criticism and actually get used from that?
I produce my movie, so my notes are very intelligent. It depends. It's, I'm not a prick, I promise. It depends. I'm very open to notes. I'm very open. Eventually, I do what I think is best, but I'm still very open. But I don't do any test screenings. So I don't. Those kind of notes I don't believe and I don't agree. I remember we were test screening Bigger Splash in America, and they gave us this big envelope of and I got them from the studio, and I exit the room of the studio, and then I trashed into the bin.
Okay, let's go from the left to the right. And I think you have a question.
Yeah, I have my daughter on screen from Copenhagen. She's studying acting. She loves your movie. She went to Crema in her spring break, in her fall break. She would love to hear about how did you prepare the actors to become so vulnerable? How do you create that safe space?
As I said before, like particularly when we did Call Me by Your Name, and we had this very young phenomenon that was Timothée Chalamet, basically putting the movie on his shoulder because he was in every scene. I invited them to be in Crema way before. So like I invited them to be with me in the village of Crema for like, I think Timothy 2 months before and Army 1. So they spent a long time there. And then they spent a long time together and being young people, like talking, chatting, partying, enjoying life. So once we get to the point of shooting, it was friendship born. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to follow that question because you said that the actors like to show themselves and not like, be themselves. And I wonder as a creator, when you're digging deep into something very personal and intimate, what do you do to yourself to unshield yourself, to like not hide?
I think I can't hide when I do a movie. You can't. You have to be who you are. You have to be candid. And movie set is my life, is my house, so I am completely candid.
So you don't have that conflict of you want to show yourself, but you want to hide, but you want to show yourself.
No, why I should hide? No. No, it's fun.
Yeah.
You obviously have a huge body of work. I think you've obviously ascended to a point where you looked at as you're a master in many ways. But I'm curious about, because at the end of the day, directing is a craft, it's a thing you do. When was the last time that you, with all of your, like what you've achieved, have been on set or been working and have experienced a moment of friction or where you're like, oh, genuinely being like, oh, I don't know what to do here, or like, oh, I'm not sure about. And from there, how did you move through that, let's say, friction, where you felt like something was maybe out of reach?
Very beautiful question. You always make very good questions. Yeah. Well, I remember when I did Melissa P. and I was lost for the first 2 weeks of shooting. I was probably because I was under pressure with the producers of that movie and the way they were thinking of how the process of making the movie was supposed to be, and I was not comfortable, and I was yet too young probably to understand that I had to impose my own confidence, and that feeling was quite bad. I saw that in a director I produced a movie with, two. So I understand that's something that can happen. So I promised myself to find a way never to be in that position. And one day, a few years later, trying to make I Am Love, I bumped into a documentary on the making of Bergman, Fanny, and Alexander. And in that beautiful documentary of that masterpiece, about that masterpiece. You see, Bergman, must have been like 77, something like that, being lost sometimes on set, and never being undermined by being lost. Actually, being open to his crew that he was lost, and starting from the little element, and trying the little element, like change the position of your legs, look this way, no, look that way, and stuff like that, and building bit by bit until then the sequence was created. So like I learned that I didn't have to protect myself from my from me not having the answers, and make sure that on the film set everything was possible. That's why I'm not shielding myself. So that was a great moment of reckoning for me. And then the problem of then problem doesn't become like I don't know how to reach something, but maybe it's I don't know how to reach somebody on set. Because often, like in the great Beware of the Holy Bitch by Fassbinder, what happens in the story happens in the movie making.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, when you have films that are so photographic, yet naturalistic, and are very tight and intimate, with this sense of freedom for the actors, what are the challenges in keeping that sense of play and naturalistic performance with that tightness in photography?
I've seen so many bad movies when actors are asked to be like this. That I know that when an actor goes like that, no, be like, what's that? Quicker. Quicker is always a good note. I was watching a trailer for a celebrated film, first filmmaker movie that was shown in one of the many sections of Venice this year. And all the actors were like staring towards the infinite. And nobody does that. Do you ever stare at the infinite? Never. Sometimes I never forget that you shite and pee. So I always say to the actors, you are that kind of person, you shite and pee. Don't be like.
Yes.
Yes, I'm just asking, like, if you're not busy after this, if I could, like, have just a few minutes interview for a school project.
Yes, of course. That's not exactly a question on a Q&A, but yes, we can have a date.
I'm curious about your process in pre-production. Do you want to tell us more about?
Well, I don't know, probably it's the same for every filmmaker. I mean, like you gather a group of people. Usually you start with production designer who starts first. You develop a system of ideas that you have to, a system that could let you apply the ideas you have. Usually you start a historical research. I have a lot of great people that helped me working through these movies I made, that made very beautiful historical researches. That I have so many books that should be published about Berlin in 1977. Benjamin Walter, who now is a very good writer, working in cinema. He was like a young kid I hired. And he did this incredible research for Suspiria, and I was like, give me something I need to read anything you can find me about Jung and the concept of the mythology of witchcraft and And you do a lot of that, so you learn a lot. To make a movie, if you do it properly, if you are curious, it's almost like mastering a discipline. Then you go into the visual. Sometimes you choose, first of all, historical research again, like when we did Call Me By Your Name, I asked a few kids to go around town and knock at the doors of families and ask them to lend us family pictures of Crema 1980s. Same for Bones and All. We collected thousands of pictures, thousands. Like we learned in Bones and All that in 1988 in the Midwest, nobody was having a big fringe and big shoulder. That was like a cliche of the 80s. Mostly, the way people was putting themselves was as if the 70s never happened. So it's between it was like a jump from the 50s all the way to the 80s. It was like the 50s but less formal, you know? That was a beautiful discovery. And there was a sort of like, the 70s was marginalized in those pictures. Was always in the back of the picture. Like you see in Bombs and All, if you've seen the movie, many of characters, all of these characters are like on the fringe, on the board, on the boundary. But some of these people are really destroyed. Their lives are destroyed by our protagonists, and they are already completely destroyed. Like the guy that Timothy kills in the supermarket. You see the house, you see the effect of that. So I think it's about really preparing yourself a lot. And then making sure that all the information goes in every direction. So you send the information to the art department, to the costume department, and the art department is composed by many departments, because you have the set decoration, and then you have the prop master, and then you have the graphic. So it's like and hypertext. And then you send it to the actors. Maybe you send them a little bit less, because usually actors, they don't like to read a lot. Except for like Ray Fiennes, Craig, Tilda Swinton. But yeah. But sometimes what I learned also, you should be shy of referring to films. The visuality of a movie should not lie on film, should lie on their locations, should lie on historical research, and mostly painting, I would say.
I think we're gonna have 2 or 3 more questions. So yeah, second row, yeah.
Just to follow up on that, is there something that you bring with you on set that's the one thing that helps you stay grounded, or maybe helps remind you what you want to achieve, the one thing that you want to communicate in the scene, something that you refer to continuously?
No. I'm thinking, no. My iPad. So that I can, well, anything, the news. It's very boring to be on set. I'm grounded because I can see what happens outside the set.
Can I ask you, how do you interpret the title? How do you interpret the title? So,
Call Me By Your Name.
Like where did it come from?
Well, the question should be asked to Mr. Andre Assiman, who wrote the book of the same title. So I borrowed the title, and to you, how do you interpret the title?
Well, there's many interpretations in my mind, that's why
I want to know yours, the first that comes off of you.
So, when I look at the person that I love, into the eyes, I actually see myself. So therefore, like, that's the first click when I think about the title.
Good. Hopefully in the second moment you see also the person you love, not only. Yes.
In a way.
Yes. Yes. Or it's like, I love you to death.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many questions. I just have one question, but very quickly, because most of the filmmakers are making 1, 2, 3 shorts and then 20 features, like mostly the French filmmakers. But you are making 1 film and a short and a musical clip and a documentary on Bertolucci and a short and 2 more. So I think this activity, and I don't say it's frenetic, but it's very interesting. There is few filmmakers, maybe Agnès Varda did it. There is few filmmakers who are making a film, but making a feature film, this is not the end. Of course, so Luca is also making shorts and musical clips and documentary about the shoemaker and things. Can you explain really quickly about this? The different format you are using?
I can share a secret. The only real ambition is to have, when I stop working movies, a great filmography, graphically, where you can see film, I think I'm compelled to have a chic filmography. And Agnès Varda has a very chic filmography.
Okay, 2 more questions because we have to prepare the room for another film. So,
I'm curious about the role of music in your films, like in Call Me By Your Name,
Yes, 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 yes. John Adams in Call Me in I Am Love. By the way, we have the great Edoardo Gabriellini who played Antonio in I Am Love here. So a little applause. John Adams was the music that I listened to throughout the process of conceiving that movie. I think there was something wondrous about John Adams' music and arresting, and that soared to a level of magnitude that could be a sort of a character in the movie that was helping finding a way to a modern melodrama. And I wanted I Am Love to feel like a modern melodrama. And in Call Me By Your Name, we really wanted to be the subjectivity of Elio to be at the center of the movie. So it was about Elio. And Elio was a budding pianist. So most of the music in the movie is for piano, in order to try to depict all the different aspects of his ebullient, disorganized, and yet poetic and absolutely earnest sensitivity. Last question.
Last question, yes.
At the beginning of the year, it was announced that you will be directing a biopic about Audrey Hepburn, and I was wondering on behalf of Audrey Hepburn fandom if you can share maybe some new information or some updates about that project.
So you came, you put together to do the question. Good. Unfortunately, that project is not happening. Yes, it's very sad. It was a great script, and of course a great actress to play Audrey. Maybe one day.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.